Welcome to Stories Behind the Wealth, the show where high-earning professionals discover the real-life moments behind financial success with your host, Gaffar Chowdhury. For almost 2 decades, he's helped successful individuals and business owners navigate wealth with clarity and confidence. On this show, we go beyond the spreadsheets, sharing the turning points, mind shifts, and personal stories that shape how people manage money and life. Money talks. We listen. And what we hear might just change the way you think.
My next guest helped run 4 acquisitions and a $1.26 billion exit for a government technology company by age 30. She had the title, the trajectory, everything set up to chase bigger dreams. And then, standing in the room where the deal closed, she had a realization that sent her down a completely different path. I can't wait to dive into it. Welcome, Meghan Gifford.
Thanks, Gaffar. It is so amazing to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for the listener that doesn't know you yet, give us the short version. Who is Meghan Gifford, and what did you spend your 20s building?
Woo! Meghan Gifford was a compulsive achiever. Meghan Gifford never met an objective or a goal or a title or a status that she didn't see and be like, I'm getting that, which shows in the bio. And so I was pretty relentlessly focused on climbing and achieving and collecting awards. And I got a whole dusty shelf of them here. And it worked. It worked until something different happened.
You went through a transaction. It was a 10-figure transaction. We referenced it a little bit in the intro for a company called Octo Consulting. You and I have a lot of mutual friends still in that organization. You were the VP of Corporate Development and Strategy. As I mentioned earlier, 4 acquisitions. The Integration Management Office is something you also built in 2020. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and so for those who don't know, Octo was a private equity-backed government technology company. And so part of a PE strategy is we're buying businesses and we're integrating them into the platform. And so as part of that, we were doing a lot of acquisitions. And so we were taking this organization that had never done M&A before and putting in processes and practices so we could learn how to integrate at scale while we were also growing quite rapidly. So the Integration Management Office was, think about it as a governing body that I spearheaded and set up. So we had like a project management function for when we were buying and integrating these businesses, some which were kind of happening simultaneously. There was a function within the company that could do all of the functions related to that while, the people doing it were also the people running the business, right? Yeah. So that was the function of it. And we learned a lot along the way. I'll just say that.
Walk me back to how you ended up in GovCon M&A in the first place. What drew you to deal making specifically?
Happy accident. I fell into it, Gaffar. I grew up in Michigan. I went to school in North Carolina, and by complete happenstance, I found an internship at this tiny company that had 10 employees at the time in Washington, D.C., who name of Wolf Den Associates. And I remember when I came in for my internship, I was sitting at my desk and didn't know a single thing about GovCon, didn't know a single thing about M&A. I was Googling GovCon for Dummies, M&A for Dummies. And those of you who have been around government contracting know there is no. You got to learn all the acronyms. You got to learn it all on your own. And so I learned that very quickly. So I fell into it through a connection. And I fell into M&A again because I was at a firm with 10 people. And so you had to learn how to do everything. But what that meant was, as a 20-year-old, I was in the room where we were advising private equity, where we were advising CEOs, where we were working on massive deals. And so I really learned super early all the intricacies of GovCon M&A, especially from an IT services side, and really fell in love with the strategy of it, the people of it, and the rest was history for a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Is there one story or a moment from any of those four acquisitions that you were a part of that still sticks with you, good or bad?
Well, we did much of the acquisitions during COVID. So the first couple we were doing, and we were also first learning how to do integrations during COVID, learning how to do acquisitions during COVID, and then trying to integrate a business during COVID, which we all have our different battle scars around that. And so there was a time when we first were able to get people together in person when things were first opening up, and we brought everyone into Virginia, and the new employees and the new employees from the business we integrated and our existing employees, and we all got together. And it was this first time that everyone got to share space. After all of this, I mean, integrations are hard. After all of this change, after all of this, in the trenches, we got to be in shared space. And it was just like this injection of fresh air and remembrance of, I don't know if you experienced this, Gaffar, but during COVID, almost we all knew we were lacking in-person cohesion, but we almost forgot what it felt like because we had been lacking it for so long. And so when we got everyone in the same room, finally together, it was like, ugh. And it just felt so good. And it really helped the cohesion of the integration. And it really helped me recognize, probably for the first time, how important the human element, the cultural element, it sounds kind of fluffy, but really what I learned over and over again over that time was it's not. It is the glue that makes or breaks the enterprise value of these strategic decisions that you're making. And that was a really profound moment to teach me that. Yeah.
Speaking of profound moments, this was all over the media. IBM acquisition of Octo. 1.26 billion, I think, approximately, give or take.
Approximately, give or take.
Yeah. Take me to the day that deal closed. What did that actually feel like being in that room?
I will always remember this day because it was 2 days before Christmas. And it was 2022. And I remember because I was at my parents' house in Michigan. And I was kind of sitting off into this side room. And we are on the most anticlimactic way to close a $1.25 billion deal ever, which is on Zoom. Everybody's dream, when you dream of it, you're like, I'm going to be sitting on Zoom with a bunch of lawyers. It's going to be so great. Yeah. And so that's where we were. We were sitting on Zoom with a bunch of lawyers, and it's incredibly anticlimactic. You speak to any business owner who's been through this, and it's like, wait, this is it? And that was kind of the experience. And so, I'm on this closing call, and by all intents and purposes, this is like this incredible achievement, and it was. And for me personally, this was this mountain that I was talking about at the beginning, this achievement-oriented Meghan. This was like, I made it to the top of the mountain, and I'm on this call with everyone. We, say the words, and the money all wires around, and I hang up the phone, and I have 30 seconds of like pure elation of, we did it. And then I'm not even 30 seconds later, it was like the whole bottom dropped out of that. I could see so clearly this entire future that stretched forward. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to keep doing this over and over and over and over again. Because my mind immediately thought, I had 30 seconds of high, my mind went, what's next? Cool, check, what's next? And in that moment, it was like, zoom, it was like the bottom dropped out. And so I was standing on top of the mountain with all the achievement, and I recognized, oh, I'm chasing again already. I'm already chasing again. And that was really the moment everything changed for me. It was kind of scary.
Yeah, I bet. So instead of chasing the next big deal or bigger companies, right, what happened instead?
Well, I stayed for a little over 2 years. I was part of the integration of Octo into IBM. I was leading that integration for 2 years. We had 1,500 employees coming in, and it was really my responsibility to help steward the organization into their new home. That was really important to me. And then I left, but I knew that whole time that I was going to leave. And so that was really strange, Gaffar, I'll tell you, because I had always been someone who was so bought in and so singularly focused on next thing, achieve, climb. And to be in that dissonance of like, I'm here, but I actually don't know what that next milestone is. I'm not like in the chase, but I'm in the game, was very surreal. That was a weird period.
Yeah.
That was a weird period. And then I left in 2025, and it's been about a year and a half on the other side.
Yeah, and we're about to get into what that other side is. Before we do, was there a person or a conversation at IBM or Octo that made what you're doing now real for you?
I don't know that there was, if I'm being really honest.
Yeah.
To be super honest with you, this was a strange kind of lonely period because two things were happening. I was going through a really deep reorganization personally. I felt like all of the things I thought I was, Megan's the achiever, you're just gonna climb, like that for me was totally changing. And I didn't know where to go with that. Like my image of myself was changing. I was seeing that things were different for me inside, and I didn't know where to put it. I didn't know how to show up and, you know, be with my colleagues who I'd only ever presented myself as like, go, and share some of the things that were going on with me. And so it was this strange thing. I almost felt like I was living in two worlds. And part of that was my own growth edge to like show up with my authenticity and share some of this stuff. But a lot of it was happening kind of behind the scenes for me. I was having conversations more with people outside of the professional space about what I was experiencing, whether it was my therapist or my friends, right, about what I was experiencing. And I was kind of compartmentalizing my relationships professionally.
You were focusing on wellness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was focusing on wellness and like who I really was. Who was I beneath all of these things I thought I was, but beneath the titles, beneath the money, beneath the achievement.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is something actually I see often, not only in the GovCon world, just with founders in general, right? Especially those that we work with on the exit planning side. There's this assumption that the hard part is the transaction itself. And the truth is the transaction is often the easiest part. Yeah. What did you see from the corporate development seat that founders don't see coming, looking back?
Such a great insight. Please say that over and over and over again to as loud as you can. You're spot on. You're spot on. And I would actually put a different lens on that. I would say that we see the exit as the end point. And it is actually a stage, and there's a lot of stages that come after. There's a massive transition that comes after the sale. Whether you are, let's just take, you know, in my direct experience with founders I've worked with where they're selling into private equity, and then the founder is then no longer the owner. Maybe they have like a minority, a small stake. They're needing to come in and they're now an employee. They've been a founder and an owner their whole life, but now they've got 3 levels above them in hierarchy, and they've got all these rules. Like that's hard. That is really hard. So whether it's that piece, but they still got to be there and they got to put on the face and they got to, you know, smile to the employees. That's difficult. Whether it's that, right, or whether it's a sale outright, and in the snap of a finger, you know, this thing that they've poured their soul into for decades, that was their identity, was the way they introduced themselves at cocktail parties, was the thing that filled their schedule, is no longer theirs. That is a huge, massive identity transition. And there are feelings of grief and loneliness and confusion and isolation and all sorts of things that almost all founders I've spoken to are not prepared for. And I think that's a huge disservice because we are not equipping and supporting these folks through this at the time where it's just a massive human transition.
Yeah, very, very good insight. Your bio says the truth of who you are is more powerful than anything you know. In the context of money and wealth specifically, what does that actually mean?
My experience and the experience of the incredibly high capacity, wealthy, powerful people I now work with privately who usually have successful businesses, successful careers, have some mechanism of wealth in their lives, is that there's someone they've had to be in order to get to that point. There's some set of beliefs and behaviors and ideas about themselves that they had to get, that they had to be successful. They might believe, I have to be really hard on myself. I can never take a break. I've got to be the one who has all the answers. I have to hold it together.
Yeah.
What I see is that most people in this position believe that that's where their power comes from. The belief is, I am successful because these things. And it's what I see over and over again in myself and the people I support is that what is underneath of that, who they really are, is much more present, clear, loving, and authentic. And from that place arises a natural creativity, strategy, and contribution that is beyond what the set of rules and set of restrictions and set of beliefs is capable of. And when people are brave enough to explore that and shift into that for themselves, incredible things happen in their lives.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah, absolutely. If a founder is heading toward an exit right now, what's one thing you tell them to pay attention to that has nothing to do with the term sheet?
I would tell them to focus on who they are and who the company is. Like, if they haven't made that separation yet, it's time to start making that separation, that who they are and the company are two separate things. So that can look like a couple different things. That can look like even simply, first of all, simply recognizing that. It can look like taking really intentional. I've one founder who, his advice is always like, find one or two things that you just enjoy and make sure you're doing that in the year before the sale. Simply to create these things that are for you. So you are building that foundation of this is who I am. That is not the company. You want to defuse yourself with the business, because that's going to make it so much easier, A, for you to go through the transaction with clarity and with presence, so that you are making grounded decisions when it matters most, because your sense of self is not all tied up in the deal.
Yeah.
And it's going to make the other side, the transition, so much easier. So I'd say 1, separate yourself. 2, find a soft landing. So you don't need to figure out the rest of your life. You don't need to figure out your 10-year plan, although you'll probably want to, because that's how you've known how to deal with uncertainty.
Yeah.
But if you can find one soft landing, so maybe one charitable organization, one trip, one hobby you've always wanted to pick up, one thing that's going to help you in those first months have something to sink your teeth into, is really going to help you right away. And then the third thing is expect it to take time. It's going to take time.
Yeah,
And
it's going to be an
is-
adjustment.
It's going to be adjustment, and that's the norm. And if you put pressure on yourself to have the answers and know right away, you're going to set yourself up for a lot of suffering.
Yeah, well said, well said. So what does your work look like now? Who are you working with, and what are you doing together?
So now I support high capacity, ambitious female founders and leaders who have achieved a degree of success in their lives and are looking to go to experience their next level, experience something else, but want to do it without sacrificing who they are. So they want to grow both their vision and their business and their soul at the same time. And it is the most like rewarding, fulfilling work I've ever done in my life. I am obsessed with it, because what I find is that, similar to myself, I'm be super honest, I do this because I've seen it in myself, right? When we take really high capacity people who have built their whole life on what I was sharing before, which is like a condition, like a limited version, but that version has been really successful. I have to be hard on myself. I have to push myself. I have to be perfect. I have to people please. Everyone has to rely on me. I can never make a mistake. Yeah, that's how a lot of women achieve success. Not all, a lot.
Yeah.
When we can open that up and support a really brilliant visionary woman in coming into contact with her full power, her full truth, her full authenticity, what she creates, the world she builds, the impact she makes, the contribution she makes is just absolutely mind-blowing. So that's what I do. That's what I'm absolutely obsessed with.
Love it. Love it. Having gotten to know you, I can see that this is your passion. This is your calling.
Thank you for reflecting that. That makes me...
Yeah. Without naming names, any examples you can share, whether it's GovCon leaders or otherwise, of someone who made that shift that you just kind of eloquently described?
Yeah. I have a client who was a CEO of an organization in the GovCon space, and then she was running a massive, nearly 1,000 person organization, and she had always spent her career running things for other people. She's really good at it, like really, really good at it. But she came to me and she said, Megan, I'm doing this, but I'm doing it someone else's way. I'm doing it for other people, and I know I have something in me that I want to start, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it in alignment with my values, because I want to balance my family. I want to have time to myself, and I want to have peace while I do it. I don't know how to do that. So we supported her in making that transition, starting her own business successfully, and starting it in a way where she set boundaries for herself, where she's with her family more than she's ever been, and she is pursuing her hobbies more than she's ever been, and she's making more impact for the clients and missions she loves more than she's ever been, because she's getting to do it her way. But she needed to give herself permission to make that jump in how she saw herself. I can only do this for other people versus I can do this my way. And she needed to give herself permission to, it's okay for me to prioritize my family. It's okay for me to prioritize my children, my grandchildren, while I take this leap. And I actually can make more of an impact and feel more like myself while I do it. And she is just absolutely killing it, and she's so happy, and it is just the best to see. And that was something that was inside of her. She just needed a little bit of support to find it, access it, and then birth it into the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome. With your work now, how are people finding you, or how are you building your business and finding your clients?
I've been super fortunate that my clients have come from referrals from past clients, relationships that I have, conversations like this one. It's typically happens where I'm speaking with someone, or someone speaking with a former client of mine, and there's just typically something in them, and they typically come to me and they say, Megan, I don't really know why we're having this conversation. I don't really know what I even want, but something tells me we need to be in conversation. And from there, we get into it, and that's how it's been working.
Yeah, truly organic,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's move on to one of my favorite segments, our rapid fire round.
Woo! Let's do it.
All right. So the first thing that comes to mind, shoot. Okay. What does wealth mean to you?
Wholeness, freedom, truth, contribution.
Nice. One belief about success you had to unlearn.
I have to sacrifice myself.
Very, very good point. Yeah. Best piece of advice from your days at Octo that still holds true.
Culture and cohesion and vision are what leads the day. Culture, people, vision over strategy, 100% of the time.
Love it. Love it. One word people who knew you then would use to describe you versus one word that people would use now based on what you do.
Ooh, competent, now authentic.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, this was an awesome conversation, and I'm so glad we got to spend some time together. I can't wait to continue learning more about your work, and I think the future is super bright. The work that you're doing is relevant whether people know it or not, right? And I think what you're helping them discover is, outside the box in terms of just looking at, like we talked about, term sheets, right?
Yeah, and if I'll just offer one thing for anyone who might need to hear it, I think there is a part of our life that necessarily is set up for accumulation. Like, I don't look back at that time in my life when I was chasing status and money and titles and think to myself, like, what the hell were you doing, girl? Like,
Yeah.
I needed to be in that phase. That was important to what was important to me at the time. It was important to set myself up with a degree of freedom. Yeah. But there comes a time, at least in my experience, where evolutionarily, if we choose to, once we have a certain degree of our needs met, we get to start to ask ourselves some of the deeper questions about purpose and meaning and what we want to do with the freedom we have and why we're here. And to me, that is what wealth makes possible. And that's what I would want to invite any of your listeners who are kind of at that place where they've put in the time, they've put in the reps, they put in the accumulation that was necessary to create safety for themselves and their families. And now they're kind of sitting there and thinking, what's next? You've created freedom. And that is such an incredible blessing and gift and achievement that so many will never have. And you are so, it is such a gift. And you now get to use your life force, your time on this earth to do whatever you want with that, whether that is building a more present relationship with your partner or your children, or that's starting something and building something that comes from this place within you that like no one else is capable of because it's you, it's so true to you. Or it's finding, and pursuing a hobby that you've always wanted to. It doesn't matter. But it's, can we choose from that place of freedom with consciousness and with our whole selves? Because in my experience and the experience of the clients I work with, that is where the lasting meaning and purpose comes from. That's where, when I had that moment of I'm at the top of the mountain and I feel nothing, I thought it was there. It's not. It was a necessary step. It was a necessary awakening, but it's in what we get to do with the wealth that really brings our life into magic. And so that's what I would invite anyone who's in that place into.
Very well said. So speaking of that, where should people go if they want to connect with you or learn more about your work?
You can come on my website. It's just meghangifford.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be so delighted to chat with any of you.
Love it. Love it. Well, that's it for our episode of Stories Behind the Wealth. If this conversation hit home for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Stories Behind the Wealth. Be sure to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. If you're a busy, accomplished professional or a business owner looking to build confidence in your financial future, visit us at districtwealthstrategies.com or call 202-759-8524 to learn how our team can help. Because money talks, we listen, and the stories are just getting started. The views and opinions expressed are those of the program participants and are not necessarily those of MML Investor Services, LLC. The material is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment specialist. Gaffar Chowdhury is a registered representative of and offers securities through MML Investor Services, LLC, member SIPC, OSJ 530 Gaither Road, Suite 350, Rockville, Maryland, 20850, phone number 301-355-5800. District Wealth Strategies is not a subsidiary or an affiliate of MML Investor Services, LLC.